Right, okay. The thing I want to talk about this week is unit composition. You've probably guessed from the title. What most new players will hear is counters. Now, some units are very, very good against other units, and that's what we mean by counter. However, people, especially new players, tend to think of counters above everything else. Counters are important to know, but they're not as important as unit composition. And I want to give you a few examples of this. Oh, if there are any questions, feel free to shout them out at any point, okay?
What replay is it?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you there.
What replay is it you're watching?
We're watching a custom replay. It's in the TeamSpeak channel. Will we resume at faster speed? Everyone ready?
I am ready.
Yeah.
Okay, what I'm going to do is show you a hard counter. Basically, Immortals are a hard counter to Marauders, and if you take this example of one Immortal against what should be 3 Marauders,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
we can go to times 2 in fact, at ooh, okay, I got, right, okay, I'm at 8:30, 8:40 now. Roughly 3 Marauders is 300 minerals and 150 gas, while a Immortal is 250 minerals and 150 gas. So you see one Immortal take out 3 Marauders. So Immortal easily takes out far more than its own cost in Marauders. However, in most game situations, you'll find that that doesn't actually apply. What we'll do now is see an example of a larger Marauder force. Also, I have made a mistake here. I've sent 5 Immortals instead of 4. So if we skip past this bit, yeah, it works better than the next one. If we skipped to, let's see, if we skip to 12 minutes, right, is everyone at 12? Is everyone at 12 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, I've actually got one too many Immortals here, and I've split them up a little bit. But it should be 4 Immortals against 10 Marauders, roughly the same again. And you'll see that Marauders can stim up and focus down Immortals very quickly. Right, so the point of this is you shouldn't worry too much about hard counters. When in a large battle, even if you do have hard counter, with a roughly equal force, it's still possible that your hard counter unit can be taken down quite quickly. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay, now what I want you to note is something called unit. It's basically making sure that the unit grouping that you have complement each other. What I have here is a group of zealots and a group of stalkers with 1 sentry. Basic warp gate units. Now, if I attack the same amount of marauders with these group of units, you should see that well when they do attack. They'll be attacking soon. You'll see that they can actually take out the Marauders much easier than just a immortal army. Now the reason why that happens is because the unit composition that I have means that the Zealots take a lot of the damage, even though Marauders counter Zealots. The Zealots themselves will take damage, and the Zealots actually do quite a lot of damage as well, plus the Zealots act as a shield for your Stalkers, so your Stalkers don't get shot at by Marauders. So as you can see, even though I don't have a hard counter, this army that I have, which is again equal to the army I had before, actually took out the Marauders much easier with units left over. The reason is because I have a good composition. And I'll give you one further example. This will be at 17 minutes, so if you could skip to 17 minutes. Everyone there?
Yep.
Okay, let's go. Right. With a good core composition, you'll notice that my unit is roughly the same amount of minerals I had before, minerals and gas. So, roughly the same cost army with a good composition, and if you throw in one or two of these so-called counters, will actually do much better. So what I want you to realize is that instead of thinking about what unit counter what, mostly worry about unit composition. Make sure that you have a good, solid core amount of units. And when I say core, I mean units that can not only do a lot of damage, but also take a lot of damage. So you've got to worry about both the DPS and the amount of health and armor. And if you have that, then throw in a few of these counter units, you'll be doing much better. Okay? Now that's one scenario. There is another scenario. I don't actually have a replay for that because it's harder to demonstrate. So we can quit out of this now. Right, the other scenario is if your opponent has a good composition, a composition that beats yours. For example, M&Ms. If you have a big ball of Marine and Marauder and Medevac against your normal gateway units, unit for unit, the MMM ball is going to be able to deal more damage and actually survive longer than your warp gate units. In that situation, you want, or in a situation where your opponent actually has better macro, you actually want something that will tip the edge. For Protoss, this could either be Colossi or Templar, and I will talk about Templars. So, because it's MMM ball, the units themselves are reasonably weak and they clump together a lot. Templars are very good at countering that. And if you find yourself in a situation where the MM ball is getting too large and you just can't beat it with your warp gate units, then you can decide to switch to Templars. When you go Templars, you find that because Templars cost a lot of gas and very little minerals, you will have a lot of minerals left over. Now, what would be the best thing to build in that situation? I think we should all answer that.
Zealots. The charge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Zealots with charge. So if you ever find yourself in a situation where your normal core unit or core composition is being defeated or doesn't work, then whatever you decide to do, try to balance out the mineral and gas costs. if you do it that way, you'll have, again, you'll have good macro, you'll maintain a big army, even though it's just zealots, but your Templars will be able to defeat them in ball. So for the races, I'm just going to go through the core compositions. For the races, for Protoss, your core composition that you should focus on is zealots, stalkers, with a few sentries thrown in. This is because the zealots can do a lot of damage, can take a lot of damage, while your stalkers can chase down fast units, can kill air, and your sentries can provide that shield, or use force field to trap your opponent's army. So that's Protoss, that's your core unit, and then once you have a large amount of those units, you can add in a few Immortals, a few Colossi, or a few Templar to bolster your army and just add that little edge. That way, if you just try to go that build in each game, you'll find that you will, on average, win a lot more. For Terran, the core build will be Marina Marauders, actually the easiest thing in the world. You throw in a few medevacs to heal, and you throw in a few tanks for splash damage, maybe a few Thors to chase away muters, but the core units you should concentrate on is M&M. There is also mech builds, but mech builds are harder, so while you're still learning the game, focus on MMM and just building a lot of them, like 5 racks with 3 as tech labs and 2 with reactors, and make sure they're constantly building. And for Zerg, the core composition is Roach Hydra. Roaches is your tanks. They can take a lot of damage, while your Hydra behind them will do a lot of damage. The Hydras die very quickly, so they have to be protected. Okay, right, that's pretty much all I have to say about composition for this week. Any questions?
Remember, if you're getting, a lot of times your unit composition matters more than hard counter, but if you're getting countered pretty hard, you can always do a tech switch. Like, if you see, it's easier to do with Terran, since you can just lift off reactors and add-ons and all that stuff, but it does help to hard counter sometimes, especially if the other person goes like Colossus, you need to reactor out Viking and stuff. Yeah, pretty good stuff.
Yeah, sure. I mean, certainly it will help, but in most situations you won't have just Colossi. You'll have, for example, a huge ground army with a few Colossi thrown in. In that case, if you pump out a huge amount of Vikings, you'll kill the Colossi, but your ground army will still lose to their ground army, and you'll still be overrun. The important thing is not about whether you produce a hard counters or not, is making sure that you've got enough of a core army to counter their core army, and then if they do have these units, then sort of like if you see an opportunity for a hard counter, then you throw in a few hard counter units rather than focus purely on Vikings, if you see what I mean.
Oh, yeah, that's what I meant.
It's just that I see a lot of new players and even some advice purely suggesting that players learn counters and nothing else. I mean, counters are useful to know, but I think it's a lot more important to get your core army right. Make sure you're familiar with controlling, building, and using a core army, and then once you have that, throw in a few of these counter units. Any other questions? Anyone? If there's no other questions, then that concludes this session. Have fun playing, and build lots of units.